Oh, welcome.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Alta Live. I am so excited to welcome you here today. My name is Beth Spotswood. I work at Alta, and I am delighted to bring on Eric Nakamura, the founder of Giant Robot. Today, he's going to talk about his new book, Giant Robot 30 Years of Defining Asian American Pop Culture. This new collection features the best of his magazine. It was a zine that started in 1994 with 68 issues. The new book includes new writing and never before seen photographs. Eric is going to be in conversation today with Alta senior editor Matt Haber, and we're going to show you some images from Giant Robot and from the book. Eric's going to tell us all about kind of Giant Robot's 33 decades of extraordinary art and culture and all of the cool kind of like side projects that emerged from this really incredible zine. So I hope you're excited for this conversation today. Before I turn things over to Matt, however, I just want to do my little sales pitch for Alta Journal. Alta is an award-winning quarterly magazine focused on California and the West. We publish 4 beautiful issues of this magazine, which you can get for $50 a year, along with a special gift. We also have free weekly events like this, the Free California Book Club. Let's see, who's coming up? Gary Phillips is coming up next Thursday. And all sorts of really cool events. In fact, if you're in the LA area, we've got an event in celebration of this issue at the Huntington. That event is free to attend, and we will include an RSVP link in the email. Which brings me to today's interview will be recorded and posted to our website, altaonline.com. We're also going to shoot you an email with links to where you can buy Giant Robot, where you can read an article in Alta about Giant Robot, where you can find out anything else that Eric and Matt talk about today that we think you might find interesting. Check your inbox later this afternoon for that email. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to ask questions for Eric. There's also a chat. It's always nice to see where people are zooming in from. From Novato, California, I'm going to sign off and turn it over to Matt Haber.
Thank you, Beth. And thanks,
Thank you,
Eric, for
Beth.
being here. I want to say right at the top that we're talking because a great writer for Alta, George Chen, wrote about you for our newsletter and gives us a chance to go back and look at Giant Robot and the book. And as I was telling you before we started, this book hit at exactly the time I needed it. You created a safe space in the past for me to go back and look at this. Tell me about the history of Giant Robot. When did you start it?
It started in 94 as a zine. Literally paste up, glue sticks, photocopies, scissors, right? And X-Acto blades, putting it together so we could actually put it on a photocopier, right? It just rested on a photocopier and made copies and had to figure out how to do it two-sided. And do you know how many times the two-sided was upside down? It was like,
Uh-huh.
oops, right? Just all the zine follies that happen. Well, those all happen more than once. And getting glue on the photocopier, that's happened, right? So it's like, just like that. And
Did you have a mission when you started, or was it just like, oh, zines are cool, this is cool, I love stuff? Like,
um, a little bit, right? I think part of it was the landscape out there was, for me, it was punk rock zines, stuff like Comet Bus, which I know you still see out there, which is amazing. Comet Bus was amazing.
shout
There's
out to
punk
Aaron, Comet Bus,
Aaron
still
Comet
still
Bus, right?
working.
That was very inspiring. And then there's like all the punk rock zines like Maximum Rock and Roll and Flip Side, I guess, and just stuff like that. Tons of it. And then I was thinking, well, is there something that kind of fits my interest that's a zine? And I would say no. So basically just wanted to start something with that format because it was had not one cent available, and just was looking for something that was kind of like, had punk rock, but also Asian stuff that I
Hmm.
liked, whether it was food, filmmakers, anything cool that I just thought was fun. I just thought it wasn't represented anywhere.
Yeah.
And my friends too, just they had no place for it. So I think that's sort of what Giant Robot becomes, this intersection of things that we like that was just not represented anywhere.
And you were growing up in Los Angeles, and I think you still live in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
So how does that city and maybe particularly the place where you came from inform what you were interested in, the kind of movies and music and the energy that you brought to it? How is it a LA product?
So I kind of, although it is an LA product, a lot of people thought we were from the Bay Area.
Interesting.
That was a long time, because I think the Bay was actually at that time in the mid 90s was the hotbed, if there was such thing, for zines, right? That was the
Right.
lot of the publications were actually fostered or actually from the Bay Area. And
You
I
shout out
know,
a few of them in the book, like Might and publications like that were kind of doing
sure.
stuff at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff up there, and
Boing
so
boing.
a lot of people thought we were from up there. Oh,
Hmm.
Mondo 2000, was
Mondo
that them too?
2000, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that one. That one's pretty obscure, but no, these are all things that I liked, and but I think maybe by virtue of just kind of getting something done and having it be like maybe just actually pretty loud in a way. I don't know, a lot of people thought we were from San Francisco, so I would say it's a California product, maybe more
Hmm.
so than just LA. But just like San Francisco, LA is it's Pacific Coast and close to a lot of influences, maybe from Asia, from Hawaii. A lot of Asian American people, for example,
Yeah.
maybe are out here, but also punk rock. I mean, punk rock, California's a hotbed, right? It was always this hotbed of I don't know, creativity and indie spirit, I would say. So I think you add that up and it's like, oh yeah, there's Giant Robot comes out of
One thing
all
I
of it.
real One thing I realized looking through the book is you guys were so far ahead on so many things before they were big or mainstream or even acknowledged in the US or anywhere. You were writing about performers like Michelle Yao or bands that kind of eventually became big bands. There's one part in this where you interviewed Jenny Shimizu, the model, and she mentions in passing, like, I was just in a movie with this woman, Angelina Jolie. She's really hot. And it's like that was before she was known to anyone.
Yeah.
And how did you guys keep ahead of so many things or be tapped into things before anybody knew about them?
Yeah, I think it's just being a curious person and being interested in a lot of things that were just not covered in media. So I think that's kind of where Giant Robot gets born, is just all these things that I was into was just not covered. That's all. It was just things I liked. And Jenny Shimizu was like a personal hero. And I was like, okay, but nobody really covers her. And especially Asian American media just did not cover her. But so yeah, no, it's just one of those things. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pursue what I like and what I'm interested in. And some things did blow up. Some, not everything does, right? But
Yeah.
some things do blow up. And like the Hong Kong film industry just kind of does blow up, and
Yeah.
some of
You
the
had a
stars come.
Miyazaki interview before he was huge, and
Yeah, that's a score.
Murakami before he was huge.
Yep,
And
Nara, Yoshitomo Nara. But
I mean,
yeah,
it's really like it's almost like you were setting up these people, helping them kind of get a little bit of traction, and then they just took it from there.
yeah, just random, kind of random. But then these are things that I really believed in, that I thought were amazing, right? The art was amazing, animation, Miyazaki's.
Hmm.
But these are things that are me and my we knew about. It was already not to me, it wasn't the secret, but it was just underknown and underreported. That was all. So we became a place where it just kind of becomes an amalgamation of all this cool stuff that we thought was underrepresented. And here we go. That was
Yeah.
really just simple as that. It wasn't some gatekeeping or anything like that. We
Right.
just kind of went with whatever we just really believed in, and that was all. And it was simple as that.
Yeah, well, I think this would be a good time actually for Beth to bring up the slideshow, and we can look
Sure.
at some of the spreads and some of the stuff that you covered. Um, so this is 30 years of
Wow.
content. We're going to only show a little bit of it, but maybe you could give us a little bit of narration, just tell us what some of these things were. This will come up in a
Sure.
moment.
That's the wonderful Felicia Chow's art. That's the Giant Robot 2 gallery on the cover of the book. The
Yeah,
back
we
cover
should talk about
features the
the
back.
galleries at some point. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's just awesome. That the artist Felicia Chow, who lives in San Francisco, yeah, came up with that as kind of an idea. She doesn't do illustration work. She actually does art. And but yeah, when it was just like, what do you want to do? And she said, here's what I want to do. And it was like, okay, she wants to do it. So you say yes at that point.
hmm
Yeah,
and
because
that sounds like a lot of what you did with a lot of the art and the stuff in the
yeah.
magazine was just giving people permission to make
Yeah.
things.
We don't dictate exactly, we just kind of said, hey, because she said she doesn't take direction. So we're like, okay, what do you want to do? But worked that way. It came out beautiful, and I'm really thankful, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can get the slides rolling.
sure. And if not,
We'll just vamp until then.
if not, we could just talk about the cover longer. No.
Are these not
Well,
Yeah.
let's
showing? They're showing for
we're
me.
seeing We're seeing the main one. Let's go to the
Yeah,
next
we're
one.
seeing the main cover, just the cover, the
Oh,
first
sorry,
slide.
guys. You
That's
know,
okay.
Okay.
Doing it live.
It's okay.
is this working at all?
I think I can't tell. I don't think so. But
No, I think we're just seeing the
I'm
oh,
gonna try again.
now we're
I'm gonna.
seeing Eric again.
it's okay.
Um,
Hey, that's okay too.
are you zooming in right now from your store, the giant robot
No, I
store?
know
Okay.
I'm at home.
Okay, so
But
tell
that
us about
yeah,
the store because that's
sure.
kind of Giant Robot still exists. It's not a print magazine anymore, but it's still
Yeah.
a thing. So tell us about the
Yeah.
store and the,
I
the shows.
So there's a huge amount of people that think, oh yeah, the magazine ended, so Giant Robot's done. But no, in 2001 we opened the first store, and just well, I don't know how you got how you do it at Alta, but for Giant Robot, it was hard to make a buck, right? It was hard to survive. So opening a retail store was a way
Magazines are a
to.
tough racket.
They always were, you know it. But oh yeah, here we go with some slides.
My
Is
bad.
is this can people see that?
No, I
I
don't
think
think.
I think people can see that.
So, so to supplement print, you said let's do retail. And at some point,
Yeah.
you had what, 4 stores all over the
So,
country?
oh yeah, we had a store in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Silver Lake. Had a small restaurant even, and then we had art galleries and art exhibitions in just about each city.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the art starts bubbling up kind of the same time as the magazine starts to show a little more art, right? You mentioned Murakami.
Hmm.
That's kind of when it all begins. We start putting art on the cover and really, just Giant Robot kind of evolves as I guess we grew up and I grew up. So got into art all of a sudden and it was like, okay, art's a direction and
Hmm.
so it
But
just always
that's another example of you being ahead of the curve because a lot of
yeah,
magazines are now doing retail or coming up with a bunch of merch or figuring out ways to have these affiliate plays where they have these little shops, whether it's
yeah,
virtual or real. And you were doing it, I don't know, 20 years ago
yeah,
and actually
2001.
interfacing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we tried
So,
to make a store that was sort of in our image a little bit, that what the magazine would feature might some of the things you could see in the store. And I would hear people say, "Oh my gosh, the store feels like I walked into the magazine." And that's like the greatest honor ever to hear that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any interest in doing a print again or doing like a web version or
Like no, I always want to do print again.
sure.
I think print's always a fun way to go. So no, I definitely would love to do print. And I'm keep thinking about it. Just again, I see Alta and I'm thinking, oh, look at there's print and it looks so fun and it looks so amazing. I remember the pain that goes
Right.
involved that's involved with it.
You
That
have
kind of
print envy.
oh, big time print envy. Love print. And I love magazines still. I think they're amazing. And when I see them, I stop and look every time.
Mhm.
It's just yeah. I
So
love
we're
print.
both a couple of old guys. But do you see the kind of energy that you felt back in the old giant robot days anywhere now? Is it
I'm starting to see it. So
migrated?
we've done a little bit of like a little bit of a book tour. I see a lot of young people at on the book
Yeah.
tour. Like I see people in their 20s interested in the book, interested in print and zines, and I'm thinking, oh, whoa, like there definitely has come full circle to some extent. I mean, maybe not as much, but enough where there's a lot of interest in people who've never seen Giant Robot. They're born after it's basically just about born after it stopped publishing. It
Hmm.
seems like, right? Not quite that young, but in general, yeah, very excited about it. They've never seen it before and have so much interest in it. And maybe that's just the backlash to all the 30-second social media posts and things, where you just don't get much out of it. It just scratches the surface and you want so much more.
But I, I
Yeah.
I imagine that there is a scene of young people interested in cool stuff, making cool things that is just as it should be, is outside of our field of vision. They're doing their own thing, and
Yeah.
there's probably something that's got the kind of vitality and energy of a giant robot that's out there right now, and we just don't know about it.
I would say yeah, but in terms of supplanting what we did, I would say no.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I think there's a lot of great energy out there. I just like, even back to magazines, I still see rad magazines out there. I'm thinking, wow, this is a new magazine. It looks amazing. The editorial staff is just a few people deep. I'm thinking, wow, it's all doable. And I go
Hmm.
to zine fests and book fairs and I see I see magazines still and they're
Yeah.
published. I just see one person behind the table and I'm thinking, this person did it all by themselves.
Right.
I'm
Tell me a few
amazed.
things that you look back on and that you're like the proudest of or that you can't believe you got away with and that you just look marvel at still?
I think, well, making free copies was always fun. I mean, back in the early days, making free copies everywhere was amazing, right? So I made copies. This is all after hours, knowing people who
Hmm.
work places, MTV. I made copies at MTV, UCLA, all over campus, Xerox. I actually made copies at Xerox. What zine person has got to make their zine at Xerox? And
Right.
actually used.
The call is coming inside the house.
That's crazy, right? I actually got to do that. But editorially, we did this whole it's in that book. We did a 28 page kind of a feature section on Asian Americans in the civil rights movement, which
Hmm.
sounds like that's kind of underknown and well, not reported in pop culture at all. But we actually put that into pop
Here you
culture.
go.
Yeah, we did a whole
Yeah.
section in one issue of the magazine. We put 28 pages of it, and that's just nestled among Hong Kong films,
Hmm.
or like that was Jenny Shimizu's issue on the cover, right? It's an interview with Jenny Shimizu. There's all this really fun stuff, and then you have the serious civil rights thing. So we kind of nestled.
Which, as I
Yeah,
recall, you said in the documentary on PBS that that was the most bootlegged piece that you ever did,
yeah,
that every
for sure.
professor of Asian studies copied it and stuck it
A
in their course
lot.
packet.
I know a lot of them did, and they put them into their readers, I guess, and that's
Hmm.
awesome, right? I dig that. I think that's a really fun thing to know that something we did that was sort of like it was made in the guise of pop culture. I mean, we were
Yeah.
serious about it, but this was for the reader who doesn't knows nothing in Oklahoma or Texas or whatever. They just won't know about it, and we're force
Or even
feeding
Los
them.
Angeles. I mean, that's
Sure,
deep
you're right.
history that's kind of not been written. Tell me about Return to Manzanar, because that's another one that's a
Ah,
serious piece that was
yeah.
nestled in a pop magazine. I'm going to
So
look for it.
yeah, before Manzanar became a historical, it was was a national historical landmark. It was just a location, internment camp location.
Hmm.
And so we went there to kind of investigate what's really there. It was kind of just like a road trip. And wanted,
This
like
is you and your partner,
yeah,
Martin.
yeah, Martin Wong. And we went there just to figure out what's really there, because we don't quite know. Like, you read about it, but you don't really know what's there. And we go there and find a lot of things that I've never heard about, right? There's a reservoir that you could skateboard in. And of course we took skateboards with big pneumatic wheels so we can kind of ride on the dirt and have a good time at the same time. So it becomes a travel story, kind of an archaeological expedition, history, but also sports, right? We kind of
Hmm.
we kind of mash together all these different ideas and make it one fun article, because I ended up being a fun time, and but also
And a
very
personal
serious.
exploration, right? I mean,
Sure.
for you and for your
Yeah.
readers to kind of
Yeah.
understand history.
And also for me, it's tracing back a little bit because my father went to an internment camp called Poston
Hmm.
in Arizona, and so
Hmm.
it's very similar, just desolate place, and it's just very much like that. So it's for me a little bit of a personal journey too, and
I think
and I
both those
yeah.
stories, what's interesting is that within the context of a pop culture magazine that was fun and light, you took on some serious stuff and you really took some big swings. Was that a intentional thing, or it just felt natural to kind of like these were the things we're interested in?
Oh, it felt natural, and it wasn't trying to create some kind of a momentous occasion. It was just
Hmm.
to do something that we wanted to do. I think a lot of things about Giant Robot is you'd think that sometimes you think maybe there's a lot of thought going into it, and I could say no, probably not. But at the same time, I mean, it's something within us that we wanted to do it. So I might not have known the context at the time, but yeah, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I see exactly why I wanted to do it, or why I wanted to
Yeah.
go, and why I took that picture. I understand all the context later, but while you're doing it, you're just in the moment, That's just
Yeah.
that's the fun. It's youth.
Was compiling the book an opportunity to kind of see the picture from a distance and look at that
Oh,
stuff and realize things?
100%, I guess, because
Yeah.
I didn't look. I didn't even have a full set of the magazines to get working
You
on
don't
this
have
book.
leather bound copies in your library?
Didn't even have a full set, because
Wow.
anytime I got close,
eBay.
I would just give them away to people. I'd be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you don't have it here, take it." So now I had to put together a full set and
Uh-huh.
really comb through everything. I had to digitize we had notebooks of DVDs and CD backups of the
Oh,
issues,
wow.
right?
Wow.
Never put onto a hard drive.
Hmm.
And we had duplicates because some of them failed, and I'm like, oh my God, it failed. Then there's a duplicate. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it worked. The duplicate worked. So um, yeah, just had to go through everything, every photo, everything. And it was just a really fun journey backwards. And I haven't looked back that much. So this is pretty insane.
One thing I remembered from the documentary, which we urge people to watch, it was really cool, um, is that the first cover of the first issue was the sumo wrestler sleeping, and you said you got it from somewhere. You don't know where you got the picture. You just used it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's 30 years later. Do you know where this picture's from?
It's from a book, but I don't know what book. I mean, I hate to say, I don't know who the photographer is, unfortunately. I don't know. I have no idea. And
Somewhere, this is the like lost, this is the grail. Find out
it's
who this
it's
photo.
it's findable. It's in a sumo book of some sort. I'm sure it's like a maybe a very general. I don't know. I mean,
We
that's at
gotta
the
we gotta
time,
get this person a credit 30 years later. I'm
Yeah,
determined to
really,
do that.
really, really.
Is there
I,
anything that you
yeah.
look back on and you regret having put in the magazine, like covered certain things or written in a certain tone?
Sure. I mean, if you look back, I mean, some of the writing's very heavy-handed, very confident, very brash, and some of that I'm like, oh, that was kind of mean to this person for almost no reason. But that was in my youth. I
Yeah,
apologize, I guess now, but yeah, some of it, oh, for sure. I think that's kind of what one thing you probably don't understand as a youngster is if you're writing and things that you say, especially if it's going into a written print type of situation, is it might be ephemeral, might be there for a long time. And
yeah.
some of that I look at, I'm like, wow, I was really mean to this person for almost no reason whatsoever. I just didn't like what they were doing, and I ripped them one just for the hell of it, and that's not cool, exactly. I wouldn't do it today. I just couldn't
Well,
do
an
it.
example of that is you beefed a little bit with the other Asian American pop culture magazines that were out there.
Oh, they weren't pop culture magazines, were they?
Okay. Well, you kind of beefed with Yoke and A and a few
Oh, well,
others,
those I don't think those.
Trans-Pacific.
I don't know if I regret those as much. That
Okay.
one, that's not what I was even talking. Those I'm kind of okay with. I mean, those are
That was just some print trash talk. We all did that back in the 90s.
yeah, but I think they were doing the same thing kind of too in a way. So no, yeah, I guess so. Did you do that in the 90s? Anyways, no, yeah, we definitely did. I think those other publications were one of the reasons why Giant Robot gets started though, because um part of the landscape of Asian America, especially in magazines, were these
Mhm.
magazines that I thought that weren't so great. And I just thought they didn't represent me because they would say things like Asian America type of thing for like all Asian American, like
Mhm.
those are the subtitles of these magazines, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really not me. And I felt like an outsider to everything. So creating the Outsiders magazine became kind of part of the mission too. It's
Mhm.
creating the magazine for everybody else, which is almost everybody else.
But it shows how much print mattered back then and how much representation mattered that you could get up in arms about it and say, that's not me. I'm going to show you who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was,
And
I think, and by the same token, I think other people did the same thing. They made magazines that said, giant robots, definitely
right.
not me. But, because our magazine's subtitle was The Magazine for You,
Uh-huh.
right? So I'm saying it's like some of those said, like, it's like for all of Asian America, and ours says it's basically for you. So it's for everybody. And some people are just like, no, I'm not that. And here's my
Uh-huh.
magazine. So other publications were formed too. And there was probably equal trash talk in those.
I just love an old beef. That's why I brought it up.
Hey, it happens in hip hop, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the history of hip hop. Why can't it be in magazines? And
Yeah.
in the end, we can all shake hands and go, yeah, we were good and you sucked, right? I can say that. And they can just be
I thought
like,
you were
yeah,
gonna
we
say in
sucked.
the end we'll say we're all friends, but you're like, no,
Yeah.
you still suck.
Yeah, you still sucked. But yeah, kind of.
Well, this
Well,
is
I think the mean thing is, if you want to hear it, the mean thing is I'm positive that our staff could make their magazine, but I'm
oh, interesting.
positive, I'm positive that their staff couldn't make our magazine ever.
Interesting. I see that. I see what you're saying
Right.
there.
Yeah. That I think is a fact.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a bake-off where we get the staffs back together, everyone get in a room and try to remake these magazines. We'll do
We
it.
only we need an hour. We'll get it done in an hour. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's
Well,
all magazines are hard work, and it is. How do you go? It's so hard to think about going back to making a magazine.
yeah,
That's like, I mean, I remember how hard it was, and I only knew that how hard it was by
it's
doing
slightly
it.
easier now without the glue sticks and the scissors and stuff, but yeah, it's still
Yeah,
pretty hard.
but the late nights. I remember it was like. I mean, that's all I knew. I didn't know that there was life outside the magazine, like what that was like. I only knew that because that was sort of my first job that
Hmm.
stayed the whole way. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, I didn't understand like how tough that was. Yeah. I don't know if people will ever
Well,
understand.
I think that anyone who's interested in this stuff and in the magazine world, but also in just what pop culture was like in the 90s, specifically as it's kind of applied to Asian Americans, they should definitely pick up the book and check it
Wow.
out. Um, Beth's maybe going to pull up some questions from our audience. So I'm
Oh,
going to get
cool.
quiet, Eric, and we're going to listen to some questions.
I do have some questions. I showed the slideshow. We did show the slideshow. I don't know
Oh,
if
you
you can,
did?
I don't know what's going on, but folks saw it and I
It's
know they
okay.
loved it.
Mercury's in
Oh, it's
retrograde. Who
okay.
knows?
God. Anyway, thanks for bearing with us, folks. And really, buy the book. Go check out the
Yeah,
book.
just
I
get the book.
imagine this makes an amazing holiday gift.
Oh yeah. It's like a, you
I'm always
know,
selling.
it looks like a coffee table book more than, like it's like it's a big book.
Yeah, I'm excited to receive it from my coworker, Matt Haber. All right, so some questions from Grace Toy just wants to give a shout out. Eric, please note that I donated old copies of Giant Robot to my collection, Grace Toy Asian American Ephemera Collection, Contemporary Culture Collection at Temple University Libraries in Philadelphia.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks, Grace.
Yeah.
Question from Alta Journal columnist and everyone's favorite, Gustavo Arellano. What publications, Eric, on social media or social media accounts today, do you think have that giant robot feel of being ahead of AAPI curve?
I don't think there anything. I mean, I look at a lot of things like that, but I always feel like a lot of them are based on current events, but ahead of a curve, I kind of don't think so. I mean, God, there's a lot of stuff out there now. Like I'm looking at a lot of it, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram. But I mean, I just end up looking at a lot of food recipes, frankly, and restaurant reviews. I guess are those ahead of the curve because they kind of are, right? In some ways, it's ahead of the masses. But in terms of like giant robots type of subjects, I've been asked this before, and I don't really know of anything.
There's only one giant robot.
I don't know.
Well, Amisa Chu asks, she'd love to see giant robot in zine form again. Will it ever happen?
Wow. I would probably, if I were to make it, it would probably be in somewhat of like a combination of a book magazine is kind of what I would think. Like I kind of like the format of a book, but I kind of like it when books actually feel like a magazine. It's very Japanese, I guess. I like that. Are you familiar with that at all?
No.
No. They call them a MOOC, MOOK. Yeah, it's like a book that's actually a magazine. Very cool. I like
Oh,
that
wait,
format.
Amisa wants to hear more about this. Tell us more about the MOOC.
Oh, they have them in Japan. It's pretty common. Like there's one called Quick Japan, for example, that seems to cover a lot of different topics, but it has advertising and it has a lot of things that feel like a magazine, and it feels definitely definitely not a book because it feels like it just has the magazine feel that's in a book. I don't know. That's all I kind of see, but I keep thinking that's what I would want to make, and little by little thinking about doing that. Trying to create a once a year publication that is sort of a book size but formatted like a magazine. Of course, there'll probably be no ads in it.
You're on a book tour for Giant Robot, the book right now. Is there any in the kind of the 30-year retrospective of this book? What are some surprising things, or what's the most surprising kind of response you've gotten as you travel around and share this work?
So I thought that doing this, it would be there would be a small response to it. I mean, just as much as Giant Robot always gets to me like this response that it's like underground. I think we were always kind of on this edge of being underground, and I always feel like, okay, some people are going to remember, but they're not going to say anything. But I feel like people have come out of the woodwork to really say congratulations and how happy they are and excited. And I've had a much more positive and bigger response than I ever expected. I thought it would be a lot smaller and more subdued. I feel like that's sort of our audience. It's our audience seems to be like pretty cool in general. So I'm thinking, oh, they're just going to be like, cool, it's cool, like really low key about it. But no, I've seen such great response and excitement, and that's been really amazing. I'm shocked in a way, like going to New York, for example, and having it really packed at the Midtown Library. I just didn't expect that at all.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Yeah, that was really
exciting.
cool. I hope we all can experience that sometime in our lives because that was just amazing.
You mentioned as we were kind of as we were getting ready to go live, you mentioned that you were surprised to see younger people, people who were born in the 90s,
Yeah.
born after Giant Robot started, show up to some of your book signings or, be interested in
Yeah.
Giant Robot.
It's wild.
How did they find you?
I'm not sure if it's just from social media for this more recent, just having the book come out. I'm not sure if it's that. I hate to say it. Sometimes they say, "Oh, my mother, my father," right? I hear that, and I'm like, okay, awesome, but okay. But then sometimes it's people that are just like genuinely excited about having something that represents them a little bit in some way. And I think that's kind of cool because I think people are still looking for representation in some way, and maybe they feel like an outcast being interested in some of the things we were interested in, and they kind of see this a similar, they just see them in me, but now. And then maybe there's that, and I think that kind of helps because yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of young people in their 20s show up, and I'm thinking, holy smokes, like where are they coming from? It's amazing.
Um, I mean, it speaks to the, universal appeal of this. Congratulations on
Yeah,
that
that's
very
really neat.
positive, youthful, hopeful note.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric Nakamura, on and congratulations on your exciting new book. I popped a link in the chat. You can buy it right now.
Thank you. Wow, you're good.
All your cool friends. Um, and thank you so much, Matt, for doing this interview. Thanks to the wonderful George Chen. I know he's in the crowd who did the article for Alta. Folks, we're going to shoot you an email later today with links to all of this, including a link to this video of this interview. I hope you will join us next week where we will be talking about Zorro, the new kind of iterate past, present, and perhaps even future iterations of Zorro, the fictional swashbuckling hero, in
Wow.
conversation with the always brilliant and hilarious Gustavo Arellano. That's November 20th at Alta Live at 12:30. Again, Giant Robot. Go out and buy it. Eric, thank you. Matt, thank you. Everyone else, thanks. Take care, everyone.